2015 has been a great year for gaming, and even with all the great titles that have come out, there's two in particular that have stood out amongst the rest to a lot of people that probably deserve the title of Game of the Year 2015, and those two games are The Witcher 3 and Fallout 4. Now, given the year's not done yet, there could be some kind of surprise upset and something that really just tears both of them apart, but looking at these two games alone, I want to talk about which one I think deserves the title, and I want to break it down into three different main areas: presentation, storytelling, and gameplay. Now, presentation is really two main things: sound and visuals. And from a sound perspective, they both have really excellent scores, but I gotta give the win to Fallout 4, because while both of them do have great soundtracks, Fallout 4 effectively gives you three different ones with the use of its in-game radio. And which station you're listening to, or just not listening to one at all, has a major impact on the tone of the game, whether you're listening to the epic score while going through the main quest line, or you're just screwing around blowing stuff up while listening to Butcher Pete. Visuals, on the other hand, though, are a very clear and obvious win for The Witcher 3, and I'm not just talking about the quality of graphics and the fact that Fallout 4 is already a little outdated. We're also looking at character animations, facial animations, and just the concept art going into it. Now, given Fallout 4 does have a bit of a disadvantage here because it's more difficult to make a post-apocalyptic landscape interesting looking compared to this huge magical realm, but when you just look at things like the costume design, the attention to architecture, there's just so much more going on in The Witcher 3. Fallout 4 did have a huge upgrade from 3 in New Vegas in that it actually embraced using colors outside of gray and brown, but compared to everything The Witcher 3 brings to the table, it's just not enough. Now, storytelling is a little bit more rough of a thing to say which one is flat out better, because they both have very different approaches to quest design. Witcher 3 is much more linear in nature. It does take place in an open world where you can take what quests you want, but everything is quest driven. You accept a quest, you're supposed to go to this place, do this, quest ends, so on and so forth. And while there is plot branching, it's all motivated by just making a decision during a major piece of dialogue. Fallout 4, on the other hand, has a much heavier emphasis on the freedom of the player. Even the main quest line has multiple ways it can be completed because you end up taking certain quests or you choose to ally yourself with certain factions. There's also a lot more focus on letting the player just do what they want to do. There's more of a feeling of wanting to explore somewhere just to explore it, whereas Witcher 3 is always sending you in different directions based on quests you take. Now, honestly, most of the time I do prefer the open-ended faction approach that Fallout 4 has taken, but in this case, I really do have to give the win to The Witcher 3, because it does something that not a lot of games do, Fallout 4 included, and that's making the side quests actually interesting. Fallout 4 does have its share of side quests that are a little funny or have a little plot going on, but for the most part, a lot of them can be boiled down to go here and kill these guys, or go here, grab this item, and come back. And a lot of this is due to the fact that it makes use of the Radiant quest system that was introduced in Skyrim. The Witcher 3, on the other hand, gives lots of story to everything that happens. Even a quest that's as simple as find this monster and kill it oftentimes gets accompanied by things like finding out how it became the monster it is now, learning plot twists about how the killings actually weren't done by said monster, and so on and so forth. There's just so much more plot crammed into every little detail of The Witcher 3. Now, last but by far not least is, of course, the gameplay. Now, this is another area that's a little harder to argue which one is flat out better, because while they are both open world RPGs, their core mechanics are very, very different. So, of course, personal preference can be a bit of an issue. Now, The Witcher 3's greatest strength, in my opinion, is the core combat, because it makes enemies something more interesting than just being a visual representation and a pile of hit points. They all have specific weaknesses and ways that, depending on how you approach them, can have very huge outcomes on how easily the battle goes. You can research them to figure out what weapons are good to use, what grenades, what potions to drink, all kinds of stuff that you can figure out. On the other hand, the customization aspects of the game, while solid, are all things that we've seen 100 times before. You can equip different pieces of armor and weapons that you find that come in different rarities, you can find diagrams that you can use to make new weapons and armor with resources that you gather, and you can customize Geralt a little bit by spending experience points to specialize in different forms of gameplay. It all works, but it's not exactly anything original. And this is, I think, a big strength that Fallout 4 has over it: customization. Because while they did streamline certain things from Fallout 3 and New Vegas, they added a whole lot more new mechanics that just give you a great deal of control over your environment. First off, it has the best character creator tool we've seen to date in a AAA game, but past that, the crafting system is just so dense. You can customize all the weapons and armor that you find, and you can also build and customize your own full settlements, creating buildings, setting up defenses, setting up a power grid. It's because of this that when it comes to just pure gameplay, I have to give the win to Fallout, because while I did enjoy getting through the main story of The Witcher 3, it was the plot that was ultimately pushing me to go forward, whereas in Fallout 4, I can just spend a ton of time screwing around, blowing stuff up, building things, just because I have fun doing that in and of itself. So overall, obviously, I like both of these games. I think they're both definitely worth playing, but at the end of the day, I have to pick one of them to be my personal choice for Game of the Year 2015. And here's the thing, over the course of the rest of this year and next year, I'm probably going to be putting a lot more hours into Fallout 4 because it gives me more stuff where I can just mess around, or I'm more interested in making new characters to try out different builds. That being said though, the time that I've spent with The Witcher 3, I found to be a lot more enjoyable. There's a few specific things that Fallout 4 does really well, but The Witcher 3 just hits every single note near perfect with great visuals, a great soundtrack, great gameplay, good storytelling. Now of course there is DLC on the way for both of these games, so when those get released it could change my opinion, but as things stand right now, if I gotta pick a Game of the Year 2015 between these two, I have to give it to The Witcher 3. So those are just my thoughts on those two games. If you're interested in grabbing either of them, I do have them linked down below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button to let me know, as well as subscribe to not miss out on any future content. Until next time guys, I'm Kevin Kenson, and I'll see you later.